You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
At the end of this, he better not know you're involved, not know your names, or think you're dead, because he'll kill you, and then he'll go to work on you.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
I was gonna grab the world by the balls and squeeze, boy.
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking dope pusher!
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warmer, disco.
The Disco Dork. Truth is, I am Iron Man. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast.
Yay!
Here we are.
This is our first official review cast of 2018.
Weekend Dork?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, because we did the Dorkies
We did the Dorkies before.
That's right. Yay.
It's
Happy
like
New Year.
it's like the liturgical calendar where you've left the Christmas season. We're back into ordinary time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels
Throw those
good,
poinsettias in the trash.
Yay. Have you all, hopefully all of our listeners have taken down your Christmas decorations and your Christmas trees and your lights and stuff like that.
Brad and I had a leg up on that.
If you haven't, I'm not
We
judging
didn't put
you.
any shit up.
Oh, yeah.
For Christmas. We were
Okay.
busy.
So do we have to announce anything before we get into our Weekend Dork? It's been so long since I've done a Weekend Dork. I haven't done a Weekend Dork since last year.
I mean, if you haven't if you haven't listened to our Dorkies, you better do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal.
Yep.
Yes.
You know,
Both
it's
parts.
The quickest 5 hours of your life.
I thought it turned out great.
I did too.
It was a great episode.
There's a pretty exciting re-interview coming up. Can we talk about that?
Yes.
We have Greg Sestero is returning to the podcast. We're going to talk to him about his book, but more importantly, the adaptation of his book, The Disaster Artist. Yeah, that's exciting. We just did an interview with the filmmakers behind the film The Strange Ones.
Yep.
That should be coming your way real soon. Christopher Radcliffe and Laura Wolkstein.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty damn rad.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into our first official review cast of 2018, why don't all of you dorks share your Weekend Dork? Starting with Brian.
Well, for me, I don't have too much of a Weekend Dork, but actually, your quote, Darren, actually reminded me that I did start this quest into the MCU. I know everybody is. This thing came out on Twitter or Facebook about, if you watch one MCU movie a week, by the time you get to the end of it, we will have reached the release of Infinity War.
17 weeks.
17.
I got that from following Iron Man on Facebook.
Robert
Tony
Downey
Stark.
Jr.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. That's right.
Yeah, I got a post or something seeing that. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Maybe it was
And
for
then-
me because I reposted it.
I just knew that in my mind.
Same. So,
You're doing math constantly? Movie math?
so you're 2 films in, Brian?
Well, I started a little late, so I'm
Oh.
catching up. So I got to do Iron Man and Incredible Hulk.
So you haven't started.
Yeah, I did. I watched Iron Man this week.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so I'm gonna catch up and do Incredible Hulk and then Iron Man 2. So I watched Iron Man, and to be honest with you guys, it still holds up to me as a lot better than I thought it was, because a lot of times when you get so far removed from the MCU, you look back, 10 years ago at Iron Man, you're like, it probably doesn't hold up as well. And the one thing watching it this time around is I really focused in on Robert Downey Jr. and his portrayal of Tony Stark. And for me, watching it this time around, he's doing some very interesting character work with the character of Tony Stark that, for me, I think is probably between this and Civil War are probably the two performances of Tony Stark that I like the best, because you see a lot of that because I think a lot of people nowadays, when you see the conversation going on online about Robert Downey Jr. and the character of Tony Stark, it's more about the persona of Tony Stark. You know, this kind of this egotistical, kind of really quippy guy, and he has all of that. But watching Iron Man, you see that as well. But there's a lot more going on that he's actually giving in that performance that is very subtle that I really didn't notice watching it this time around. And of course, I think he brings a lot of that into Civil War as well. Of course, I don't think you get much of that maybe in the Avengers movies and the sequels to Iron Man. But I don't know. It's just something, especially.
What exactly are you talking about? What
I don't know.
What do you see in the first film?
A lot of the stuff with the conflict of the whole idea of war profiteering and them profiting from the war and selling their weapons to the enemies. And when he realizes that, a lot of the conversations he's having with Obadiah, the stuff in the cave with Henson, those are really I like those moments with in that as well. So I mean, there's a lot of more guilt that I think that he feels for his responsibility in providing like maybe these weapons to the enemies. So I don't know. It's just it's something I kind of notice a little bit more in this picture.
Have you been reading my articles on the MCU,
I haven't watched
Brian?
it yet. I have to be honest. I haven't read it yet.
So
I am.
My first article is very much about Tony Stark as a human being, what he is contributing to the Avengers from this point forward. It deals with the fact that this first film has war profiteering on its mind.
Yeah.
And at the end of this movie, when Obadiah Stane, wearing the Ironmonger outfit, says, you know, you're trying to find peace, and in finding that peace, you have given the world its greatest weapon. And that line really stuck to me because that is 100% true.
Yeah.
At the end of Iron Man, going into Iron Man 2, going into Avengers and eventually Age of Ultron, in his efforts to help, he is only contributing to further misery in a lot of ways, which all climaxes in Civil War.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately leads to that destruction. And I just thought that also how he gets injured with the arc, with having the arc reactor in his chest, the fact that comes from something that he created himself. That happened from his own missiles that's from Stark Industry. So I think that's also kind of like this revolving circular thing where you're looking at whether it's Ultron or anything that he's trying to create to protect the world or to bring peace, ultimately comes back around to be almost kind of self-destructive.
I'm really looking forward to watching Iron Man 2 again. With the MCU, character arcs are happening over many films. But when you go back and you watch the first film, he starts off, he's gambling, he's sleeping with women, he's forgetting women's names. He is a war profiteer. And you get to the end of that film and you go, okay, I think he has learned a lesson maybe. And in Iron Man 2, you realize he most certainly has not.
Like, just rewatch that.
Yeah. If you watch him during the hearings in particular, that scene, his ego, now that he is I am Iron Man, his ego is even more engorged and run amok. And it really doesn't, he really doesn't get a lesson, or he doesn't understand the consequences of his actions until Civil War. And even then at the end of Civil War, does he?
Yeah.
I'll be curious. I don't know. It's an exciting character to watch because he's such a gray character.
Yeah, and that's what I saw in this first film. Like I said, there's just so many great scenes between, like I said, just him dealing with that guilt and responsibility. Even that press conference when he comes back, he has a great line about wanting an American cheeseburger. But then he has everybody in the press conference kneel down and sit. But it's like, if you listen to what he's saying, like, there's a lot of remorse about, the stuff that he's learning about his own company. Again, like I say, he does kind of go back and forth as we progress through the MCU, but I don't know, it's just something about his performance in this film and what Robert Downey Jr. is doing that really just stuck out to me.
What's so great about the MCU is that you can have characters develop over a decade, right?
Yeah.
So that you go, well, what happened to Iron Man's personality in the second film? What did he learn? Well, it's not what he learned in the second film. It's how that second film develops in the second Avengers movie and the third Captain America film. And now Infinity War. That's what's so great about it. That's serialization at its best.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Wife Dork, what do you have for your week in Dork?
I've had a wonderful week in Dork.
Yeah.
And the film I want to talk about is a little horror thriller I got to see called Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Starring Nick Cage and Selma Blair.
Yes.
This is a film that I actually missed at Fantastic Fest. Did you see it, Darren?
I missed it as well.
Oh,
boo.
We probably
Brad
missed
got
it
to
because
see
we
it.
were watching something together.
Oh, I hope so.
Yay.
So I went into this movie, I'll admit openly, a little skeptically, because it's from the writer-director Brian Taylor of Crank and Crank 2, which are movies that Brad is like super into.
Yeah.
They're very frenetic and exciting,
I mean,
but not my
I
fave.
understand your skepticism, Lisa. You're like, no way this could be as good as Crank 2.
How do you follow that up? But I like this in terms of like, you know, this movie is insane, but in terms of, it's not as insane as Crank 2. To me, this is more in the vein of like a social commentary zombie film. Do you know what it's about?
I think, yes.
So, Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair are a couple, a suburban couple. They live in a, you know, fairly nice suburban neighborhood, but they've just kind of gotten exhausted. You know, he's in this dead-end job. Their oldest teenage girl is giving Selma Blair all kinds of grief, and she's realized, you know, she's given up her career and all this stuff and put all of this energy into her children, and now her children are growing away from her, growing up and growing away from her, and she feels like, you know, like, who am I going to be now? And you know, so the strain of this existence of trying to maintain this family has caused this couple to grow apart. The film actually opens with a mother that we do not see again, but she gets out of her car and she gets her child out of the little child safety seat and into the pram, and then she pushes that pram onto a railroad track, and then a train smashes the kid. So that's how the film opens. And what it is in my excitement, I just hit my phone right off the table. So what's happening is there's some kind of mysterious something that is infecting the brains of parents and causing them to turn on their own children and murder their own children. Wow. So it's like zombies, except for they still have brains, and they specifically want to kill their own kids. And they can plot and scheme about it.
But not other people's kids.
No, not other people's kids.
Right.
So there's like this scene at the public high school, and all of these, like, it starts with like one or two parents, like, Brian, you have to come down to the office. Steve, you got to come down to the office. Nobody else come down to the office because parents are just calling to take their kids out and then murdering them right outside of the school.
Nice.
And so then cops are like at the school, and all of these like soccer moms are like at the fence going, "Let me see my child." And the children think there's some kind of air raid. So the children, like one kid like is like, "Mom," and he runs over the fence, and his mom just takes her like SUV keys and right into his fucking eye socket. So yeah.
Wow.
So this is happening, and Selma Blair is like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I have to find my kids." But then of course they get infected, and then it's Selma Blair and Nick Cage against their children. But the way I watch this movie is I see it as this commentary of, I imagine, I don't have children, but daring to speak to this as the one child full dork.
I would never kill Steve.
But like there are lots of rewards that come with becoming a parent. You have this legacy, you have this love and affection, you admire your kid, but and you know, you will give anything to them. You'll give your money, you'll give your support, you will if it's for your child, you will emotionally exhaust yourself because that's how much that person is worth. That is the person that you made. But at the same time, children are kind of like parasites. Like you have them and then they suck you dry, and as you grow weaker and frailer and less sexy and less viable, and just as you just as a human person just become weaker and you know, whatever.
Bones.
Yeah. Your children are getting stronger and more successful, and because of all of the advantages that you gave them, they're becoming more successful than you, and each subsequent generation is more successful than the previous generation.
Not anymore.
So the idea is like, you know, along with, you know, all of the wonderful things about fostering the next generation, there is a certain amount of jealousy. There is a certain amount of, oh, well, my son can program this iPhone, and I don't know how to reset my modem, like kind of thing. I don't know. That's not you. but this idea of, you know, like, so it plays on that kind of jealousy of the next generation. And what if instead of fostering the next generation, we decided we're going to win and we just wipe the next generation out? So it's
that Kylo Ren logic. Forget the past, gotta kill it.
That's right. Well, except for in reverse, because it's future. Forget the future. But what I find so beautiful about this film is really like there is this mystery of what is causing this turn in all of the parents, and
is it an airborne pathogen, or do they not explain it?
I don't want to spoil anything, and neither does the film, because you never really get a complete answer.
It's kind of like Night of the Living Dead.
I appreciate
the way
yeah.
I
appreciate that.
But it's more about how did this couple, the Ryans, played by Selma Blair and Nick Cage, how did they get to this point where they love their kids so much, but they're dissatisfied in their own lives? Like, you know, they had this vision of who they were going to be when they grew up. And then as soon as they had kids, those aspirations kind of went away and the priority went to their children. And so they have this certain amount of dissatisfaction that is, and financial responsibility that's just weighing on them, weighing on their marriage and causing them to grow apart. But when they get infected and they want to kill their children, they now are back with a common goal, and they're now working together as a team, and this is the first time you get to hear them say "I love you," and they're holding hands and they're proud of each other.
So they found like a purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so through this like kind of twisted fashion, I think the point of the movie is not that we need to kill our children, but perhaps the point of the movie is, you know, as a couple, as a parenting couple, you still have to remember yourself. You still have to remember your that you guys are a team, and that you're proud of each other and in love with each other. Or you can be like me and Brad, child free. Boom. We don't have to worry about that shit. So I don't know. I just think that it's just like
you just have to worry about your parents trying to kill you.
That's right.
Guess who's grandpa in this movie?
Oh yeah.
Can I tell who grandpa is?
You can.
Nicolas Cage's dad, Lance Hendrickson.
It's pretty great.
That's dope.
It's pretty great.
Dope.
It's pretty great.
Okay, if Bishop's gonna kill me, that's cool.
And if you need any other reasons to watch this film, Darren, there's a lot of talking heads, a lot of cameos from like Dr. Oz pops in.
Oh.
Grant Morrison appears in the movie as one of the news media's talking heads.
He's my best friend.
And Bokeem Woodbine has a cameo in the film where they're interviewing him about, well, you know, what do you think about all these parents killing their children? He's like, oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. But you just killed your kid. Well, yeah, but it's great in my case.
For me, it worked out really wonderfully.
Oh.
I don't know. I just think that it's a really cool idea to give a really selfish message. Like generally, like, you know, with the zombie film, there are these wide sweeping, proud things to say, things that equalize people, things that, you know, encourage you to think more globally, to be a more generous person, to be a more humanitarian person, blah, 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 blah. This is just like, it's just a zombie movie about let's be selfish. And
I mean, I think it's not necessarily about what, you know, to be selfish, Lisa, but I think it is about how we get, it's about dissatisfaction and how to deal with dissatisfaction. But there is, like you're saying, there's this exploitation movie has stuff on its mind.
It's interesting because I read a quote from Nicolas Cage saying something to the effect like this was his favorite movie that he's made in like the last 10 years.
He's amazing in this film. His character, he plays Brent Ryan, and he is like before the turn. Yeah. He is just like, he's like this bubbling. He's like just barely keeping a lid on his rage because his like. He thought he was going to grow up to be like this sex god, and he has his old car. He had his Firebird that he bought off of his dad, and it just sits in the garage. And he just reminisces about the time like getting sexual favors in the back of this gas guzzling, oil burning car, and the aggression is released in like these passive aggressive ways that are terrifying. And then post the turn, like you get the full Cage experience. He's screaming and sobbing and saying words, sawzall, in like a crazy voice. Like it's like
it is the best Cage performance of the last 10 years.
You feel like in every film he's trying to find an outlet to show that kind of nutty over the top side and of himself, and this takes that energy and directs it in the most perfect way. And then the balance of that is Selma Blair, who in the beginning of this film is very like even tempered. She's like trying to keep her wits about her. And, listening to the radio and going, what should I do? Blah, 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 blah. And then when she has her turn, she becomes very focused, very inventive. So they are this nice balance of like, he's like, nutty and she's like, driven. And you can see kind of what brought them together. And I think plays with the best elements of them as actors. I think they make a really fun couple in this movie. So I highly recommend it. It's going to be streaming, I think.
Yep.
It comes out on like the 19th, I feel like. And then sometime next week I'll have a review up on After Movie Diner for you guys to check out.
Yay.
So I recommend it greatly. I think it's super fun.
I'm going to check it out.
And really funny. Like it's funny, but it's funny, it's dark. The violence is great. Parent on child violence is hilarious. The best. There's an I don't want to spoil too much.
Don't spoil that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay. We'll talk about it later.
Let them discover that.
There's a lot to discover in this film. It's fun.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. See ya. None of that applied to you, okay? Daddy loves you.
You can't help it.
I would never kill you.
Yeah, that's what Selma Blair said.
No, Brad. How was your week in Dork?
I had a great week in Dork. I did. It's, we were talking about this off air, but, January gets such a bad rap because, things like Proud Mary come out. But, other movies come out as well. The Paddington 2 is here. Yeah. Phantom Thread is finally here. The Post is getting a wider release. The Oscar award season films are rolling out in January. Mm-hmm. So every Friday there's like something great to see in the theater. On Netflix this week, they premiered Mike Flanagan's new film, Before I Wake. He's the director of Gerald's Game and Hush, Ouija Origin of Evil. As you know, if you've listened to our Not Top 10, Gerald's Game was one of my favorite films of last year. Mm-hmm. And Flanagan, he made Before I Wake, I think a year, maybe 2 years before Gerald's Game, and it sort of floundered in, distribution of hell. And thanks to the success of Gerald's Game and his relationship with Netflix, acquired this movie. And so I was pretty excited to see it. The film stars Kate Bosworth and Thomas Jane. They're a couple who had a child that died tragically, and they've been trying to recover from this trauma in their lives. And they've reached a point where they feel comfortable adopting and bringing another human into their home again. Now, it might be not as graphic or as exploitative as Mom and Dad, but there is something to fear in this relationship between child and adult. The child is played by Jacob Tremblay, from Room and Wonder, and the Book of Henry, if you're lucky enough to have seen that movie. And Tremblay's character has an ability. When he goes to sleep, his dreams manifest physically. So he's obsessed with butterflies. So on the first night, when he goes to bed, Kate Bosworth's roaming her home because she can't sleep because the anxiety of adopting this youth. She starts to see butterflies floating around her bedroom and around her home, and they land on her hand. They're solid. They're real. And then, the Jacob Tremblay's character sees a photo of their son, and he goes to sleep one night, and the dead son is now standing in the living room. And Kate Bosworth, of course, is emotionally devastated by being in the physical presence of her dead child. And Thomas Jane is also shocked by this, but he recognized it as this is unnatural. This isn't a good thing. This is not our son. And when they put two and two together and they realize that this child that they've invited into their home is producing these visions, these golems, Kate Bosworth starts finding ways to get her child to go to sleep because she doesn't really want to be with this kid. She wants to be with her dead son. And she shows him home videos so that he can hear her child's voice. And now when the apparition comes back, the child speaks and relives moments from these home videos. So the home videos are Christmas time and opening presents. Yeah. And now she's back at that scene watching her child opening presents. Reliving it. Yeah. And now there's a dark presence also that appears in the film, kind of a Slender Man type creature.
Uh-oh. No, they let him watch the Babadook?
Yeah,
no.
Well, he has nightmares too, and those nightmares manifest themselves. And it's scary. It has its creepy moments, but the real horror of the film is what is happening inside the brain of Kate Bosworth's character and how this opportunity to see and hear her dead child again further infects her sorrow and splits their relationship with Thomas Jane apart, because he's not going to respond to these visions the way she's responding to these visions.
He's trying to move past it.
Right. And then there's this Slender Man thing that's floating around the background that's pretty damn scary. And how this film escalates this idea. I'm not going to spoil for you because, like I said, it just came out. And I think people are sleeping on this movie.
Is it
pun intended.
Release?
No, it's on Netflix right now.
Netflix,
okay.
Yeah,
you can watch it this very second.
Okay.
It's worth it. I have a couple issues with how it wraps up. But it's certainly not as good as Gerald's Game, in my opinion, but it's sort of like Lights Out and this upcoming film, A Quiet Place, where it's just such a wonderful high concept. It's a real treat to see these filmmakers play with such wild ideas, and can they pull them off? And for the most part, Mike Flanagan does in Before I Wake.
Okay.
All right. I'm looking. You know what? I'll watch that tonight. So is Jacob Tremblay? Is he the real deal? He's good in this.
I think he is. I think he's good in this.
Because he was great in The Room and Wonder.
I mean, Wonder's my favorite performance from him. I'm curious to see how he develops as an actor because he certainly has a cadence that is familiar in every one of his performances. And I don't know if it's like give that kid every child role. I don't necessarily feel that way. And I think, again, not wanting to spoil the ending of this movie, I think some of the things that he has to go through at the end of the film, he doesn't quite pull off. But yeah, I mean, he's good. He's really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't be like a Haley Joel Osment.
Damn.
I mean, it's hard for kids, right?
Yeah, when the transition.
Very few can go through puberty, and even want to bother with this lifestyle.
Or even just staying relevant, like Haley Joel or even Dakota Fanning. I mean, she's still acting, but she's not as relevant as she was when she was like 6, 7, 8 years old.
Here's the thing, though. Like, is it about relevance, or is it about the fact that when they were children, they naturally can pretend and tap into the fictional, and once you reach the age of reason or whatever, you have a harder time.
Affected their acting ability.
I most definitely think it has. If you look at Haley Joel Osment,
for Haley, but I think Dakota is still doing some pretty good work. But yeah, Haley.
What was the last thing Dakota Fanning was in?
Oh, she's in a film with Ewan McGregor recently.
She's in a TV show now.
Oh yeah, The Alienist. Yeah. But I think Haley, that sentiment definitely.
I don't know. I think it's a challenge for everybody.
Yeah, to make that transition. Yeah.
All right. Like I said, I'm going to check that out tonight. For my week in Dork, like Brian and like Brad and like a whole bunch of people who are fans of the MCU, I have also began my trip down memory lane with the MCU, and I'm at Iron Man 2 most recently.
We should do like a State of the Union, like after each phase. Like we should do a phase 1 episode, and then after phase 2, we should do a phase 2 episode.
That's a good idea.
I second that emotion.
Yes, ma'am. And I don't remember, I don't know why people hate on Iron Man 2 so much. It is not that bad. It ain't even bad, in my opinion.
You want a preview of the title for my Iron Man 2 article?
Give it to me.
Iron Man 2 is great.
Thank you. Thank you, B. High five.
Yeah. I suggested that in the Film School Reject Slack feed, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Well, schooling, B. In the meantime, outside of that, I have been in the theater quite a bit this past week. I caught Proud Mary, which we'll talk about later. Earlier today, I caught Insidious. Speaking of child actors, the lead female role in the Insidious franchise, there's a nice chunk of the opening of that film that focuses on her as a kid. And the child actor who plays her as a kid is phenomenal. There's a moment when she's about to get disciplined by her abusive father, and her pleas to him were so real. And, as Lisa was talking about earlier, like something happens when you become a parent. And I just couldn't, it just broke my heart at picturing Sia pleading with anyone in that way. But anyway, if you go see that movie, check it out. It's one of the better entries in that franchise. I might think it might be my favorite because of the character work, but it's worth seeing. But keep an eye out for that young actor. She is great in it. But I guess what I want to talk about is, since we're going to talk about Proud Mary a little bit later, I think I want to focus on The Commuter. Liam Neeson's latest entry into his action phase of his filmography. You know what? I actually dug The Commuter. It was one of those films where I wasn't looking forward to seeing it initially. The first trailer came out, and I was like, oh my goodness, another one, Liam Neeson. Firstly, I thought you were done with action movies. Secondly, this is just like nonstop and everything else. And then he's on a cell phone talking to somebody, being given ultimatums. And it just seemed like, he's beating a dead horse. But then the second trailer came out, and I don't know what it was about that second trailer, and I caught it in passing. But I just remember thinking, that looks really interesting. I think I want to see that. So anyway, I ended up in the theater watching The Commuter, and I will say this doesn't have Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson's not like a CIA, whatever he was in Taken, he's not that in this film. He's a retired police officer who now is, I believe he sells insurance or something like that. When we first meet him, he's just been fired. He's a he's a loving family man who's trying to provide for his wife and his college-age son who's about to go to school. And they're a middle-class family, but middle-class families are not immune to financial difficulties. So in the midst of trying to provide for a family, pay for this house, and put his son through college, he gets laid off. And on his way home, before he can tell his wife, that's when he's on the commuter train, and Vera Farmiga sits down opposite him and lays out this this hypothetical ultimatum that you see in the trailer. There's someone on this train, and she says, "Well, let me ask you this: Would you do something if I asked you, and if you knew that it would change your life profoundly, even if you didn't know how it would affect the other person, and if you couldn't ask any questions, blah 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 blah, and you would get $100,000." So that's all in the trailer. And so in order to get that, you have to go. There's this person on the train that I want you to find, and you can't ask any questions. And so it sets into motion. That conversation is the catalyst to this whole mystery of him finding the person, who this person is, because Vera Farmiga is in cahoots with some people who have the ability to, reach out and touch his family. And so if you want your family to be safe, then you'll do this. And so he's on a race against the clock to find this person that he doesn't know what they look like. He only has a description of this person has a bag. He doesn't know if it's male or female, no height, no clothes, no color, nothing. So, because he's a retired police officer detective, he uses his badass Liam Neeson's detective skills to, piece together how can I narrow down all these people on this commuter train, not just a car, but the whole entire train. He has to narrow it down. And the way they do that is pretty efficient. It's directed by the same guy who did Nonstop in the Shallows, which I really dug. And so it feels like...
Did he do Unknown as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it feels like he and Liam Neeson kind of have a shorthand now when it comes to this type of film, and also the director's particular film language. And Liam Neeson doesn't do anything extraordinary, but he's not hamming it up here either. He's not slumming it either.
So on the scale of Neeson action film, The Gray is at the top, and Taken 3 is at the bottom. Where does The Commuter fall?
That's a hard question, because I don't even understand how you can put something else on the same scale with The Gray. But if you're going to do that, this is better. I think this is better than Taken 3. Firstly, I have to, in full disclosure, I haven't seen Taken 3.
It's garbage. Just take my word on it.
Based on what you've told me about it, yeah, I would say it's better than Taken 3. I think you'd enjoy it. There's some good performances in there. Of course, you have your typical setup on the train where one guy is a douchebaggy, yuppie business guy, kind of like Train to Busan, how we had the asshole. You have that guy on there. You have like a suspicious looking guy who. So the train is littered with a bunch of red herrings, and the part of the fun is trying to figure out, okay, is it this person? Is it this person? Is it this person? And the movie manages to keep itself ahead of you, even if you fancy yourself clever. I found it able to keep itself ahead of me for a good portion of the film. But then once we discover who that person is and why that person is being singled out, it kind of gets into the mediocre territory. But I think that Patrick Wilson does some good work in there. Liam Neeson's great. The supporting cast of the people who are on the train are all good.
Isn't Mike from Breaking Bad in it?
Yes, Mike. Yes, Ehrmantraut is in the film. It's hard watching that man now after Mudbound. Because he's not a bad dude in this one. He's a good dude.
But you're like, no,
yeah,
I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah, I don't trust that dude. Right. It's him, Liam Neeson. Just kill him anyway, just in case. But no, it's a great film. And Vera Farmiga, she's only in it 2 scenes, and she is amazing. She's so good in it. She is so good in it. So you know what? I recommend it. You won't be disappointed. You won't come out going, oh man, this is going to be on my dorkies at the end of the year. But you won't come out going, oh, I wasted an hour and 40 minutes of my life. I recommend checking it out. The Commuter.
All right. Speaking of The Commuter, Brad and I have been watching a fuck ton of comedians in cars getting coffee.
Oh man,
so much. It's so good.
That should have been our Weekend Dork.
I
because
can
that's all
watch
we've been
Jerry
doing.
Seinfeld talk about a car and not listen forever.
That's right. That's is that the web series?
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. And actually,
that was an Apple.
Right? Yeah.
series,
Yeah. It's on Netflix now. And David Letterman's My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. That's out now.
Is it?
Yeah. And I watched the Barack Obama. Oh my God.
How good is that?
So great.
Yes.
Oh, with David
so
Letterman?
great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I fucking hate our president now.
I know. Yeah.
It's just like you listen to these two guys talking, you're like, oh, they're humans.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I didn't know that it was released already. I thought it was going to be coming up in the this coming weekend, but I'm definitely going to check that out too. But yeah, that was my Weekend Dork. I've been watching a ton of anime. Watched Dunkirk again. Thanks for the borrow, Brad. Watched it in my PSVR. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have that, you need to watch that movie in that format. The closest thing you can get to watching it in the theater in IMAX again. Anyway, now let's do a review cast.
Let's time for review time cast.
Yay!
Let's time for it.
This week, our review cast, we will be talking about Taraji P. Henson's Proud Mary.
Give us your best Tina Turner.
Big wheels keep on turning. Proud Mary keep on burning.
You can't hear it, but he's doing the shimmy thing.
Rolling on the river.
He just grew fringe.
I should have did.
That was Brad.
Yeah, that. Brad, you want to take it away? You were really looking forward to seeing.
I was
this
really
movie.
looking forward to seeing this. Frankly, I don't know why you guys weren't.
Because I saw the trailer.
No, the trailer was fine.
Yeah.
Proud Mary, a lot of this conversation has to be about the marketing around this film. I think the trailer was entertaining. Depending on which trailer you watch, it was certainly going for an aesthetic of a time gone by. The poster for Proud Mary right now is one of the best posters I've seen recently. It's Taraji P. Henson, and it's her afro, and the afro is the city, and you have all the characters. Like, it evokes, coffee. It evokes Pam Grier and
Foxy Brown.
Yeah, Foxy Brown and Cleopatra Jones.
Yeah.
And,
You know what the only problem with that poster is, though, Brad?
What's that?
It's for a different movie.
I know!
A totally different movie.
It's so frustrating. Like, Proud Mary's not a terrible movie. It is not. It is fine, Darren. Okay. It's fine.
All right.
It's the story of Taraji P. Henson. She's Mary. She's an assassin. She works for Danny Glover's Benny. They're
some kind of crime syndicate.
Yeah, it's Boston. They have a cantankerous relationship with the Russian mob, with Boris the Blade in his one scene in this movie. And the film opens up, and Mary's on a hit. She goes into this guy's apartment, blasts him in the face. She hears some noise in another bedroom. She sees there's a child over there. She slinks away, doesn't kill the child. 1 year later, that child is living with Xander Berkeley, and that doing the worst Russian accent. And he's a monster. He treats this kid like a drug runner, and he beats on him. He barely feeds him. And he's in a terrible living condition. And Mary is watching this child from afar. The child is hit on the head by Xander Berkeley. He's like smacked, and he falls into a dresser drawer, and it cracks his noggin, and he loses his senses. He goes to sleep on a park bench. A guy steals his backpack that has a bunch of heroin in it. He goes chasing after that kid. That guy faints in an alleyway, and that's when Mary returns into his life, picks him up, brings her back to her place. She's mortified. She's racked with guilt for the abuse that this child is facing. She goes to confront Xander Berkeley. In that confrontation, kills Xander Berkeley and a couple Russian goons, and sparks a drug war or a gang war in Boston. And Danny Glover's character, doesn't know at first that it's Mary. There's some confusion, maybe. Well,
she tries to pin it on some other goon.
Neil
McDonough. What is he doing in this movie? He is barely in it. Yeah. Walter. He has like 3 lines.
What confused me was, did he know her? Like, if he saw her jogging, wouldn't he be like, "Hey, Mary"? Because she was like right across the street.
Well, how the movie plays it, he didn't see her when he first came out of the building or whatever.
Right.
She kind of was.
And then they're on either side of a bridge, running towards each other in the daytime.
It's dark under there.
It's dark under that bridge, Lisa.
Yeah, but it's not dark on either side of the bridge. These are sniper type people. They are
not Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough's Walter. He's a chump.
I suppose so.
But
he certainly killed like one.
The main story then becomes Mary trying to do right by this kid and
growing really attached to him.
Yeah, and wanting out of the life.
Yeah.
My problem with this film,
singular.
My main problem with this film, Darren. I love Taraji P. Henson. Yeah. I love her ever since Boston Legal.
So good.
Her character of Mary, outside of that first assassination and the Walter assassination, she is hindered at every opportunity by the men in her life. Billy Brown's Tom, who's the son of Danny Glover.
Yeah.
When they get, they have some kind of relationship. She's no longer with him anymore, but he obviously wants to, to be with her. When they go in they have their action scene. She gets shot. She has to rely on him. She's always on the verge of crying in this film. When Tom is torturing that Russian goon, she can't stand the sight of blood. And I wanted Taraji P. Henson to be a badass action hero. And she really doesn't get that opportunity until the last 5 minutes of the movie. And so much of this film is treading water and denying us any kind of entertainment for routine, seen it on TNT movies, gang war nonsense.
Yeah. Another problem that I have with the movie is character-wise, the movie has no concept of like subtlety. Like everything is generic and it's too like ham-fisted. If you look at Taraji P. Henson in, you mentioned earlier, The Grey, Joe Carnahan's Smoking Aces. She's also a hitman in that movie.
Give me that, Proud Mary.
She's not even the lead in that film. Her storyline with Wanda Sykes is not even the main storyline of that film. So she's not even in a whole bunch of that movie. But those scenes that she's in opposite Alicia Keys, the character work that Joe Carnahan does with her to give her, to flesh her out, to make her multidimensional, multifaceted, as opposed to just a hit woman. Her unrequited relationship with Alicia Keys' Sykes. That moment in the tower when she views through the scope that Alicia Keys is escaping with Common, and how that hurts her based on just the little nuggets that were given based of her character throughout the film, and how that affects her emotionally and consumes her, and ultimately is part of her demise. There, for me, like, I just didn't find anything like that in Proud Mary. Now, Taraji P. Henson, though, with what she's given, I do think that she tries her best. She has that one scene on the rocks with the kid when she's being honest with him and opening up and saying, I did kill your father. I am responsible. I can understand if you hate me. She really pulls the emotion of that scene off. But then, like you said earlier, the movie just undercuts that moment by giving that character an easy out. I mean, it could have made for a more complex character if that kid didn't say, well, it's okay because he was a dick anyway. Yeah. If that hadn't happened, then that would have added a complexity not only to her and how she moves forward from that point on, but a complexity to the relationship with the kid, which it was just surface level. Oh, you're an orphan. Well, I orphaned you, but I also came up and with Danny Glover, he raised me, took me off the streets. So that's how we're connected. We can relate on that level. I mean, that's fine, but I think that a lot more could have been done to deepen her as a character and also connect her to that kid. What did you think, Brian? You saw it, right?
Yeah, I pretty much echo everything you guys said. I mean, again, like you said, Taraji P. Henson, I think she just has a charisma, a presence on screen. And for me, she really just carries the film. Like you're saying, I think there's a lot of script issues that I thought it really did give her a lot of outs that I really didn't want to see. Because I thought that would have gave the movie a little bit more complexity to it. But yeah, I think it just follows in line with too many of the tropes that we see in these type of films with, the two different factions of the families and them going at odds with each other, and then she, her the one last job and I want to get out.
At one point, I thought it was going to be Yojimbo, right? I thought it was going to be her playing this dude.
Yeah.
And then at another point, I thought it was going to be Leon the Professional, where she was training this kid on assassination business.
And I mean, and like I said, they introduced a lot of things that I thought they really could. I mean, although it's been there, done that, and it falls into a lot of those tropes. I think if they would have used some of those familiar tropes and done something interesting with it, even if it was with the relationship with the kid, which I thought, I mean, I didn't really know if they were trying to play on something with that. Maybe she was really his mother or something like that. I didn't know where they were trying to go with that story, but ultimately it was just her just feeling responsible, and feeling guilty about killing his father or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, to me, it just felt like it was just they didn't give her. The script and the director didn't give her a lot to do in this film, and I thought that. I mean, I don't know. I think she kind of deserved a little bit more for something like this.
And I think you do have to talk about the direction of this movie.
Yeah, Babak Najafi, who directed London Has Fallen, which I enjoyed.
Okay.
I did. I mean, again, I did enjoy that film. I own it.
Okay.
But, I mean,
But with this movie, when, he has to open up and reveal an action film, when he has to attempt to kick ass, he fails at every turn. Like the climax in particular is really atrocious when Proud Mary, Tina Turner's version, finally cranks into gear.
It is nowhere. And you kind of knew that was coming. I was like, okay, when is the song going to kick in with the big moment?
The timing of the song was just
way
wackadoo.
It was so random.
It was so, because it's like, I don't know. I could see that being like they're driving off together and they finally beat the bad guys, and now they're like celebrating Proud Mary time. But it was literally like, I'm going to have to go back there and kill the mentor that raised me.
Yeah, the tone of it, the tone of the scene and what's established in that prior moment does not match the tone of that song.
And then it's cut really, really strangely because it cranks in and then dials back almost immediately in the next shot for a BS conversation with Billy Brown.
Yeah.
And then it comes
and then loops. The song loops, and it's just not. It's just the way it's edited and cut together. It's
Proud Mary as a song we have seen in a dozen movies, handled in a dozen better ways. It's crazy to me how poorly this song is used in this film.
But I knew that was coming, though.
Well, you knew it was coming, but I want it to come. But when it comes, it's got to kick ass.
True.
Yeah, and it's got to fit. Lisa, what were your thoughts? Because you saw it. Brad saw it twice.
Yeah,
you
because
joined
he had
him.
to see it in the morning.
So you and I joined him for our screening of it.
Yes.
So what did you think of the film? Did you, regarding any expectations versus what was delivered?
I mean, I had seen the trailer.
Yeah.
I liked the trailer. I could tell that the 70s vibe was contrived a little bit. It didn't go any further than the
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Then the opening of the film. Yeah. I really loved. Do you know who did a better 70s opening? Was Mom and Dad.
Yep.
they do the whole with the different screens and the color blocking and the lettering, and it's like amazing.
And they've got this awesome wannabe Last House on the Left song that's playing over it. So beautiful.
But yeah, so this movie didn't really deliver on that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just kind of a bizarre experience. I just found myself kind of getting overall bored with it.
Yeah.
Bored with it. I agree with Brad. Like, the direction was weird. Like, the editing was like wackadoo. Like, you know, you're talking about how like Taraji P. Henson didn't have much to do, but they would cut to her between every single line to show like her reaction. So she just looked like she was mugging the whole movie. Which,
you know when people talk about like cut to the dog, like Robert Rodriguez, when you don't know what to do, cut to the dog. That's how they were treating Taraji P. Henson in this movie. Just randomly cut to her.
Yeah, it just seemed really just bizarre and like TV-esque. It felt like I was watching like TNT.
Yeah. There was a significant lack of establishing shots sometimes, or like a 2-second establishing shot, if any.
Well, they pushed all their establishing shots to the beginning, like all television shows.
And I was confused because when they would show that one shot where there's that building and there's the waterfront, and then there's a bridge like to the left of the screen. I thought that's where she lived. Right. Turns out like that's where Danny Glover's.
Yeah, no.
So every time they cut back to that, I thought we were going like to her house, and then we end up at it was nuts.
Yeah, no, that was weird. I thought that the kid who played the kid.
Yeah, Jahai Dahala Winston.
I thought he was great.
I did too.
I thought that he was great. And he was really my favorite thing in the movie.
Same.
Yeah. Same.
I thought the one moment when like he was like upset at her and he was like in the closet with the fedora and the gun. I mean, like, that was like freaking laughable. And like to put on a fedora just to take off a fedora.
Well,
like,
you know, in some ways though, he's the most badass character in the entire film.
Totally.
Oh yeah,
like that opening scene for him where he's collecting the money from Jerome, and Jerome only gives him $2,500, and he's owed $3,000. Yeah, and Danny whips out the gun, and you know he's really hard and scary in that moment. Yeah, like I thought. That kid did a fine performance.
He did a lot of gun handling. And he manages to not get shot, unlike Taraji.
Yeah, and so
that moment later on in the film when Taraji says she wants to get out, but she says that he won't let her leave, and so he goes to confront Danny Glover's character.
Awesome.
That scene's great.
Okay, but what about Danny Glover in the film? Can y'all talk about that, Brian?
Let's not pick on Danny Glover.
Well, let's see if Brian noticed.
Was Danny Glover was good?
Did anything stand out to you?
No, I mean, he just seemed like Danny Glover. There's nothing wrong or nothing good or bad.
Do you think it was our projection that was off?
No. He was.
I did see it twice.
The whole film.
Danny Glover.
He was not speaking. He was ADR'd the whole
His
film.
delivery was just off to me. It was like, man,
I didn't pick up on that.
So, Brad, did you look up why?
I mean, I didn't. No, I haven't done any research, and I can tell you right now that there's probably no research on that. His line delivery is really weird, and it doesn't match his lips, especially when he's backs to the camera, and you can see like the side of his face.
But has he suffered some kind of
stroke situation? I don't know.
He was just recently in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah, really? How was his?
The Holiday Train or something. It seemed fine from what I saw. But
Brian is a dude who didn't know this Grand Moff Tarkin.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I know.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't pick up on any of that stuff. So.
You type into Google Danny Glover. He's like, "Did Danny Glover have a stroke?"
No.
Oh no. But there was something he obviously must have been.
Danny Glover has not had a stroke.
He was clearly like suffering. He must have had some kind of dysphonia or something going on, because they felt the need to ADR him for the whole film.
It's interesting. You go online, and there's a lot of people talking about what is wrong with Danny Glover's voice in the movie Shooter. Yeah, but nothing about Proud Mary.
Well, I would say
he was wearing braces in Shooter, apparently.
Oh, well, like Lisa said, the kid, especially for like the dramatic moments, I thought he did a really good job, especially in the third act of the film, when, you know, at that point he stopped putting up a front like he was hard. He really allowed himself to, you know, care about Mary, even when he heard the news that, you know, his inner turmoil and struggle with coming to that truth that Mary was responsible for his father's death. I thought he handled those scenes well, because that's really some heavy shit. I mean, that's a big plot point in the film, and I thought he pulled that off. It's just, unfortunately, the rest of the film was not up to meet the
I thought her
talents of them.
apartment was really cool.
Oh my gosh, she had the 108-inch flat screen TV on the wall, so that's all I was seeing whenever that thing was in the shot. And yeah, I would like to hang out in her apartment.
Whatever crime organization, and it was unclear what their thing was. I guess it was drugs and other stuff.
Yeah, see,
just general mobsterism.
That's another issue I had with the film. So, and I understand this film does not have a large budget, but I go back to John Wick when I think about this point that I'm about to make. John Wick, outside of it, and I'm not even talking about like the action scenes, but the cool thing a lot of people will say about John Wick outside of the action scenes and Keanu Reeves, one of the more fascinating elements of it is the world building of John Wick. And I don't think it takes a lot. I mean, because a lot of the stuff is stuff that's just hinted at and lines of dialogue that that prod at a much deeper mythology in that world. And I felt that with Proud Mary, at least in regards to the crime families or what they're into, a few lines of dialogue, maybe an exterior shot or something to just flesh that out. To
whatever she did, it paid extraordinarily well.
Yes.
You talk about John Wick, and one of the things that I did like about Proud Mary was Taraji P. Henson's tactical stance. I thought she looked great in those action scenes.
She sells it.
She sells it.
Yeah.
But then the direction of those action scenes, like to again compare it to something like Atomic Blonde or John Wick.
Yeah.
It's it's not fair to judge like the highest art form of action to this, but because she was so great in her stance, the choreography around her action sequences really stood out as being subpar, off, wonky.
Yeah. And it's crazy because the only thing I remember from London Has Fallen is that one action sequence when they're making their way up that street, and it's a one take action sequence, and it's competently done. It's set up really well. The geography's laid out, and it's really inventive in how that scene transitions, how it starts and how it ends. So, and I didn't know that this was the director until after the fact, but I'm thinking like, man, that guy was able to pull off something pretty cool like that. Like, where was that in Proud Mary?
But also in London Has Fallen, he relies heavily on
budget,
on budget, CG muzzle flare, CG bullet squibs.
And we get that here in Proud Mary.
Yeah, and you get more of that. And that's so frustrating.
Yeah. But I hope that my hope is that the Taraji P. Henson's future in these types of films does not die with this film.
I want people to go see Proud Mary. Yeah. Like, I know we've just spent like 30 minutes crapping on Proud Mary, but I want female-led, African-American-led films to be more prominent. Yeah. And I want to support films like this.
It needs better direction and better writing.
Right.
Like I said, going back to John Wick 2, Atomic Blonde, and what those guys are doing, I mean, if you put somebody like that behind the camera and have Taraji P. Henson in a vehicle like that, then I mean, that'll definitely be something that, I don't know, just kind of suits her a little bit better. But with something like this, just feels like, again, going back to the studio, they didn't get behind it for whatever reason. I don't know with the direction and.
I mean, they probably saw the movie.
I think.
I think, but would you watch Proud Mary 2 if that were to happen?
Depends on who's directing and writing it. Yeah.
Like if David Leitch is like, I've got this.
Damn right I would.
And you know what?
Do you think she'd still have the kid? Of course she'd still have the kid. That was the whole point of Proud Mary 1.
I would kill that kid like John Wick's dog.
God damn. And it's sad because I think that right now more than ever we need another Pam Grier. We need another Foxy Brown. We need another Coffee. Yeah. And everything's in cycles, and I think we're due for one. And Taraji P. Henson is more than capable of being a strong black female character like that.
So Lisa and I went and saw Coffee at the Alamo as part of Secret Society Filmmasons on Wednesday. It was part of their build-up in Proud Mary Week.
Yeah.
And my takeaway watching this film for like the 90th time, I love Jack Hill's Coffee.
Yeah.
That's 1973. It's an era of political unrest, social anxiety and rage and anguish. And here comes Pam Grier in Coffee. Her sister is strung out on drugs. The police and the politicians are not going to help her. So she's going to take it to the streets and she's going to do it for herself. And Coffee represents all of this frustration towards the society that she is trapped in. And it's such an awesomely empowering movie. And here, 2018, when we have a president calling a Haiti a shithole country, we have the rage. You know, we have the anger. We have the need for a hero like Coffee, a human like Coffee, to storm our theaters again.
Because it's very real. I mean, Coffee is blaxploitation, but that rage, what all that came from, what you said, like that it was real then, it's very real now. There are women out there, there are men out there who can identify with it, and there are African American women out there who probably feel that rage that Coffee did, and that our 2018 Coffee should and would feel. Was this your first time seeing Coffee, Lisa?
No, I've seen Coffee.
Okay.
I forced her to watch it a lot. It was interesting, though, in the theater, which was a pretty packed house.
Yeah.
I would say 2/3 of it, they raised their hands as their first watch.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So unfortunately, this was not it. But you know what? I got high hopes, man. With we got our Ryan Coogler's now. We got our Jordan Peele's. We got our Ava DuVernay's. I mean, maybe I hold out hope that maybe she could deliver a heroine like that. Because like you said, like I said, we're due for that. We need that. So definitely go check the movie out so you can be a part of the conversation, and then hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought.
And there's entertaining stuff in that film. It's not like it's devoid of entertainment value.
It's just such a disappointing movie. I think if we could get anything across is that we were just disappointed. We have high hopes. We like a lot of the ingredients of Proud Mary. But
doesn't deliver.
It doesn't deliver. I just wonder, I wonder what, because they're, Taraji P. Henson and Danny are so excited and happy driving away in that car that has no door and no bullet holes, full of bullet holes, riddled like Swiss cheese with holes. Yeah. The next scene is them getting pulled the fuck over. And there are bodies everywhere, and they're literally the only people left.
She's not stopping for no cop.
Brian, you saw when the kid was watching Bad Boys 2.
Oh, yeah, Bad Boys 2.
Yeah. Can we talk about that real quick? I know we're signing off here and we're getting ready to be done.
What?
But if you make a movie and you have a character watching Bad Boys 2, you better be just as good. Because don't remind us of the amazing action of Bad Boys 2.
You got a responsibility.
In your TNT Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
I have still not seen any Bad Boys movies, Brian, just to remind you.
I know.
All right, so our Michael Bay Itmod Spotlight coming soon. No, that's going to happen.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm excited.
I think it's a great idea.
I need to be taught some things.
Yes,
Michael Bay
things. We're going to do that. What do you got coming up this week? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, what is coming out? Den of Thieves. It comes out.
Yes, I really want to see that movie.
I want to see that too. It looks like a low rent version of Heat, but it looks good. I like O'Shea.
I do like O'Shea.
Yeah, I like O'Shea and 50 Cent.
I like Pablo Schreiber.
Yeah, he's good too. So I'm looking for, and something else. 12 Strong comes out. I might check that. That was a great cast, but
It's a great cast.
It's a great cast. Michael Shannon. I just saw in The Shape of Water. Michael Pena.
I love Michael Pena.
Yeah, Rob Riggle and Fichtner. Yeah, but yeah, just
America.
I know. I mean, I see what Bruckheimer is doing, trying to ride off the success of
Trump.
13. Well, that, but 13. But 13 Hours that came out this time last year, so I figured, okay, let's do another kind of war patriotic film. I don't think this is going to play the way 13 Hours did, because I really enjoyed that film. But out of those two films, I think Den of Thieves is the one. I don't know which one we're doing the review of, but I think that's the one I'm looking forward to.
Oh, which one are we doing the review of?
Den of Thieves.
Yay.
I guess we just decided we cannot do 12 Strong. I mean, I'm going to see 12 Strong because that cast is nuts.
That cast is amazing.
Fucking hate that trailer, though.
Yeah, this doesn't work.
Oh.
It just doesn't work. But I'll check it out.
I'm glad we're not doing a review cast for that one, because I'll probably have to work up to seeing that one.
Oh, yeah. Don't even bother. If I come back, Darren, and I'm like, all right, you got to put yourself through the trauma of watching 12 Strong, then we can have a conversing. Okay. But that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Michael Shannon is straight up the only reason I'm going to see that movie, because that's such incongruous.
I never would expect him to see him in the film like that.
Like William Fichtner, what's he doing? He's got to pay those bills.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon.
Yeah. And he has a bald head in this suit, right?
William Fichtner does.
Fichtner.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Michael
thinking.
Shannon got a bald head?
No, because I know Rob Riggle's in it too, but I couldn't remember.
No, it's Fichtner with a bald head.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I know that Rob Riggle was actually in the military at some point.
Really?
Was he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was a Marine, I think.
Okay.
I know Adam Driver was, which shocked me. I was like, oh yeah, he is a former.
I was like, what you doing, Patterson?
All right, when is that?
I saw his TED Talk.
Dropping?
Did you watch his TED Talk?
Who?
Adam Driver.
No.
About being a Marine, and
It's good.
it's good.
Oh, okay.
You should check out the ItModcast Facebook page, because sometimes there's good things on there.
Sometimes.
I can't not watch it and pretend he's wearing those high-waisted pants.
All right.
I just underneath his clothes, like they give him power.
We haven't gotten to you yet on what you're excited about yet.
I feel like I didn't get to talk enough.
I think I know what she's excited about.
Let Brian finish.
What am I excited about, Darren?
His
Will you text
high-waisted
it to me?
pants. Yeah,
Oh,
what?
high-waisted pants. I do
no, I
like
think-
a high-waisted pant. They're flattering.
So you're on Incredible Hulk next and Iron Man 2. You got to watch those this week if you want to catch up.
Yeah, I will.
We'll wait for you.
Yeah, no, I'll catch up.
Okay.
Easily.
All right, and when is our Game of Thrones shit dropping?
Still editing.
We got to give the people what they need.
Yeah, I know. Still editing, but when it's done, I'll let everybody know when it's ready.
We got to at least drop one before the end of January.
Oh, well, I can get one before the end of January. At least the premiere episode. But believe me, it'll be rolling out.
Okay.
So yeah, I got an interesting way of how I want to do it. So it'll be out there.
Okay, people, you heard him say it. So leave me alone. Lisa.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to this week
I'm
besides
looking-
Adam Driver's high-waisted pants?
They already exist in the universe. I don't have to look forward to it. I can just celebrate it.
Oh.
Well, like I said, Mom and Dad comes out on the 19th. That's this Friday.
Yep.
There's stuff I'm excited about that I'm not going to get to see, like Phantom Thread. Like
You can't see that this week?
This weekend. I think I'm seeing it on Tuesday.
You're seeing it Tuesday.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
70 millimeter at the AFI?
No.
No, they're having a
Top brass, black
top brass
tie.
event.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Oh, you going to dress up?
I may bust a gown out.
You have to.
Yeah, because gowns, you wear them once. What if I just show up in my wedding dress? Would that be
You have to.
garnering too much attention?
Well, that goes with the whole like black tie affair. He's a fashion designer, right? He makes clothes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love my wedding dress.
So
I
where-
should have spent some more time shopping.
If there's one place you could wear your wedding dress to a movie theater, it's the Alamo Draft House,
That's
and
a
no
fact.
one will look twice.
Yay!
But they may ask, "What is she seeing?" But that's about it. Oh, what is she seeing? That's about it. So yeah, you should do that.
Is there anything else I'm looking forward to, Brad?
Paddington 2.
Paddington 2, that's right.
That's
I'm
right.
so excited.
Mm-hmm.
I read all of those books in elementary school, the Paddington books.
Yes.
I loved them.
And you like the first one, right?
Yeah,
All right.
I did. I enjoyed it a lot. Though I thought the ear thing was gross. And I stand beside that. Ugh.
Yeah, that's
That's
true.
disgusting.
I agree.
It made me avoid watching it in the theater. I had to watch it at home because I
Oh.
did not want to see the ear thing. Nasty.
I agree. Brad, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to. Well, it's the Lost Weekend announcement week.
Oh, crap, that's right.
On Wednesday.
Shout out to Andy Garrison in the Alamo Draft House at Winchester. We love you.
They're showing Faces Places, and they're going to announce some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this a slate for?
It's the slate for Lost Weekend, and I think it's going to be pretty wild. They're going to be doing some things a little bit differently. I talked to Andy yesterday. I won't say what they are on this podcast, but after we hit stop, I'll tell you guys some secrets.
We get to know.
I'm looking forward to visiting, hopefully discovering some films that will be some of my best films of the year.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yes. All right. I too, like my fellow dork Brian, am looking forward to Den of Thieves. It reminds me of last year when I saw the trailer for 999 and I was like, oh my gosh, that movie looks badass. I can't wait to see that. And then I saw that movie and I was like, that movie's
man, that was a crushing screening.
That was one of my biggest disappointments of last year was 999. And I rewatched it like a month ago, and it is still bad.
That should have been on my list. I totally forgot about that. Was that last year?
That
was that 17?
Yeah.
Totally forgot about that movie.
So yeah, but hopefully Den of Thieves is better. I have high hopes. O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Well, the good thing is I don't have a lot of anticipation.
I do.
For
That's
that
the bad
movie.
thing, though.
See, I don't. Yeah, I had anticipation for 999.
I do,
but this one I don't have anticipation.
I do. So we have to balance each other out.
Yeah, man.
Can I be? Lisa, you're Yang. I'm gonna be Yang too in this one. You be Yin. Yeah. I'm gonna be Yang. Okay.
I'm like I feel like if you're like zero anticipation and you're like some anticipation, I'm like, I don't want to see it.
Oh, no.
It doesn't appeal to me at all.
Oh, no. But I do. Okay, so hit us up on social media. You can follow Brian at The Turtle Dork on Twitter, at The Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Lisa Gullickson is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And writing on aftermoviediner.com.
Yes, be on the lookout for that mom and dad review.
It's positive.
Yay! Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. You got any write-ups for your Iron Man 2?
Yeah, I've got an Iron Man 2 article dropping on Friday. But before that, I have an interview with AJ Naidoo from the new film Crazy Famous. You might know him from Office Space.
Oh,
he's Samir in Office Space.
Yes.
We had a really great conversation, and I did a conversation with Alexander Nevsky, the Russian bodybuilder and member of the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Oh,
and we talked about his new film Showdown in Manila and how he wants to punch Harvey Weinstein in the face, like a lot of us.
Yeah,
I got to listen in on his the interview with AJ, and it was really entertaining. What a cool guy! Even they were having like some kind of crazy blizzard in New York where he was, and the call got dropped like 27 times.
Yikes!
Yeah.
But you did one with Simon West. Or was
I
that
did do
before?
one with Simon West. It's not so much of a conversation as a listen-in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got you asked that guy one question, and he will talk for 20 minutes.
Yay!
And then I was like,
it could be good or bad.
I mean, it's a solid piece. Yeah. Like again, I can't call it an interview necessarily or a conversation, but he thoroughly researched Stratton, his new Dominic Cooper action film, and he practically lived the life of British special forces to make that movie happen.
I want to see that movie.
Yeah, I would love to see that movie.
Right?
Yeah, but my strategy with these interviews are, I'm going to talk to you about what you're promoting for half the interview, and then I'm going to talk to you about the shit that I love.
Con Air.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to him about Con Air, but he just talked so long that the publicist came in and be like, okay, you're done. And I've never had a publicist just say, you're done.
Damn.
Oh, no Cyrus the Virus.
Yeah, it's always like one last question. And I would have been like, oh, why'd you call him Cyrus the Virus? And then I would have gotten that answer, Darren. But I didn't. I didn't.
God damn it. You can follow me at The Disco Dork on all social medias. Be on the lookout for our interview with the writer, directors, and editors.
And producers?
And producers. They did everything on this movie.
Catering, like you said?
The catering of The Strange Ones, which is going to be out.
It's on VOD right now, actually. Just dropped.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Shout out to the Indie Dork who set that up and also dropped by for that particular interview. At the end of the week, we have our fistful of anticipation, 2018 anticipation. Damn. So our top 5 movies that we're most looking forward to this year. The cycle starts all over again, ladies and gentlemen. You know how it is. You know how we do. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go watch some movies. And until next time.